Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Can you play the harmonium? Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari. A little low. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad Bhagavatam Sesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru Jagaranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sixth Canto, Prescribed Duties for Mankind, Chapter 4. We're going to read the chapter summary. The Hamsaguya prayers offered to the Lord by Prajapati Daksha. Here, Mogalila, you could read, please. On a hand with the mic.
After Maharaj Parikshit appealed to Shukadev Goswami to describe in further detail the creation of the living entities within this universe, Shukadev Goswami informed him that when the Prachetas, the son of Prachini Barhi, entered the sea to execute austerities, the planet Earth was neglected because of the absence of a king. Naturally, many weeds and unnecessary trees grew, and no food grains were produced. Indeed, all the land became like a forest. When the 10 Prachetas came out of the sea and saw the entire world full of trees, they were very angry with the trees and decided to destroy them all to rectify the situation. Thus, the Prachetas created wind and fire to burn the trees to ashes. Soma, however, the king of the moon and the king of all vegetation, forbade the Prachetas to destroy the trees, since the trees are the source of fruit and flowers for all living beings. Just to satisfy the Prachetas, Soma gave them a beautiful girl, born of Pramlocha Apsara. By the semen of all the Prachetas, Daksha was born of that girl. In the beginning, Daksha created all the demigods, demons, and human beings. But when he found the population was not increasing properly, he took sannyas and went to Vindhya mountain, where he underwent severe austerities and offered Lord Vishnu a particular prayer known as Hamsa Guhya, by which Lord Vishnu became very pleased with him. The contents of the prayer were as follows. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul, Lord Hari, is the controller of both the living entities and the material nature. He is self-sufficient and self-effulgent. As the subject matter of perception is not the cause of our perceiving senses, so the living entity, although within this body, does not cause his eternal friend, the Supersoul, who is the cause of creation of all the senses. Because of the living entity's ignorance, his senses are engaged with material objects. Since the living entity is alive, he can understand the creation of this material world to some extent, but he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond the conception of the body, mind, and intelligence. Nevertheless, great sages who are always in meditation can see the personal form of the Lord within their hearts. Since an ordinary living being is materially contaminated, his words and intelligence are also material. Therefore, he cannot ascertain the Supreme Personality of Godhead by manipulating his material senses. The conception of God derived through the material senses is inaccurate because the Supreme Lord is beyond the material senses. But when one engages his senses in devotional service, the eternal Supreme Personality of Godhead is revealed on the platform of the soul. When that Supreme Godhead becomes the aim of one's life, one is said to have attained spiritual knowledge. The Supreme Brahman is the cause of all causes because he originally existed before the creation. He is the original cause of everything, both material and spiritual, and its existence is independent. However, the Lord has a potency called avidya, the illusory energy, which induces the false arguer to think himself perfect, and which induces the illusory energy to bewilder the conditioned soul. That Supreme Brahman, the Supersoul, is very affectionate to his devotees. To bestow mercy upon them, he discloses his form, name, attributes, and qualities to be worshipped within this material world. Unfortunately, however, those who are materially absorbed worship various demigods. As the air passes over a lotus flower and carries the scent of the flower with it, whereas the air sometimes carries dust and therefore assumes colors, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears as the various demigods, according to the desires of his various foolish worshippers. But actually, he is the Supreme Truth, Lord Vishnu. To fulfill the desires of his devotees, he appears in various incarnations, and therefore there is no need to worship the demigods. Being very satisfied by the prayers of Daksha, Lord Vishnu appeared before Daksha with 8 arms. The Lord was dressed in yellow garments and had a blackish complexion. Understanding that Daksha was very eager to follow the path of enjoyment, the Lord awarded him the potency to enjoy the illusory energy. The Lord offered him the daughter of Panchajana, named Asikni, who is suitable for Maharaj Daksha to enjoy in sex. Indeed, Daksha received his name because he was very expert in sex life. After awarding this benediction, Lord Vishnu disappeared.
All right, text 1 and 2. We'll chant 1. Shri Raju Vacha Deva Sura Nirnam Sargo Naganam Mrigapakshinam Samasikas Tvaya Prokto Yas Tu Swayambhuve today. Shiraju Vacha Devasura Nirnam Sargo Naganam Mrigapakshinam Samasikastvaya Prokto Yastu Swayambhuvetare Bhuventare Shiraju Vacha Devasura Nirnam Sargo Naganam Mrigapakshinam Samasikastvaya Prokto Yastu Swayambhuventare Shiraju Vacha Devasura Nirnam Sargo Naganam Mrigapakshinam Samasikastvaya Prokto Yastu Swayambhuventare. Sriveda Prabhu, can you chant the verse? Okay. You go. Shiraju Vacha Devasura Nirnam Sargo Naganam Mrigapakshinam Samasikastvaya Prokto Yastu Swayambhuventare Tasyaiva Vyasam Ichchami Gyatum Te Bhagavan Yata Anusargam Yaya Shaktya Sasarja Bhagavan Paraha. Okay, word by word. Shri Raju Vacha. The king said, Deva Asura Nirnam, of the demigods, the demons, and the human beings. Sargaha, the creation. Naganam, of the nagas, serpentine living entities. Mrigapakshinam, of the beasts and birds. Samasikaha, briefly. Tvaya, by you. Proktaha, described. Yaha, which. Tu, however. Swayambhuve, of Swayambhuva Manu. Antare, within the period. Tasya, of this. Eva, indeed. Vyasam, the detailed account. Ichchami, I wish. Gatum, to know. Te, from you. Bhagavan, O my Lord. Yata, as well as. Anusargam, the subsequent creation. Yaya, by which. Shaktya, potency. Sasarja, created. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Paraha, transcendental. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The blessed king said to Shukadeva Goswami, My dear Lord, the demigods, demons, human beings, nagas, beasts, and birds were created during the reign of Swayambhuva Manu. You have spoken about this creation briefly in the third canto. Now I wish to know about it elaborately. I also wish to know about the potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by which he brought about the secondary creation. So we'll read 3 and 4. Shishutavacha itisam prashnam akarnya rajashir badarayanihi pratinandya mahayogi jugada munisattama. Sutta Goswami said, O great sages assembled at Naimisharanya, after the great yogi Shukadeva Goswami heard King Parikshit's inquiry, he praised it and thus replied, Shri Shukavacha yada prachetasa putra dasha prachinabarshishaha anta samudrat unmagna tadrashurgam dumarvitam. Shukadeva Goswami said, when the 10 sons of Prachinibarhi emerged from the waters in which they were performing austerities, they saw that the entire surface of the world was covered by trees. Purport. When King Prachinibarhi was performing Vedic rituals in which the killing of animals was recommended, Narada Muni, out of compassion, advised him to stop. Prachinibarhi understood Narada properly and then left the kingdom to perform austerities in the forest. His 10 sons, however, were performing austerities within the water, and therefore there was no king to see the management of the world. When the 10 sons, the Prachetas, came out of the water, they saw that the earth was overrun with trees. When the government neglects agriculture, which is necessary for production of food, the land becomes covered with unnecessary trees. Of course, many trees are useful because they produce fruits and flowers, but many other trees are unnecessary. They could be used as fuel and the land cleared and used for agriculture. When the government is negligent, less grain is produced, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 1844. Kashigo raksha vanijam vaishyakarma subhavajam. The proper engagement for Vaishyas, according to their nature, are to farm and to protect cows. The duty of the government and the Kshatriyas is to see that the members of the third class, the Vaishyas, who are neither Brahmins nor Kshatriyas, are thus properly engaged. Kshatriyas are meant to protect human beings, whereas Vaishyas are meant to protect useful animals, especially cows. Omagyanatavrandasya Kyananjana Shalakya Chakshulanaditamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karitavachalam Pangam Nangaite Grim Yakripatamaham Bande Shigurundinitarinam Bancha Kapadaribhishcha Kripasunabhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the modern so-called leaders of the world, they want to manipulate, control, I guess it's similar, control the general population by different ways. And the best way to control people is to make them stupid or to dumb down their consciousness. That's the best way to control people, because if people's consciousness is dumbed down, then they just say, oh yeah, yes sir, I follow your orders, yes sir. So the process of Krishna consciousness is meant to enliven us in the sense that our consciousness is not dumbed down. It is not asleep. We are not asleep at the will. We are not dead in any way, shape, or form. But again, modern so-called leaders, they like people to be like that. Because if people are thinking or independently thinking, then it's a problem. Because they could start a whole revolution, and they could, they could fight against the powers that be, which they don't want. Because they just want people to, work hard and pay their taxes and, not really create some type of revolution. So again, we are meant to be as followers of Srila Prabhupada. We're not meant to be like that. Also within religion, I mean, there's a tendency for leaders of religions to dumb things down, to create a situation that everybody's just yes, sir. Now, of course, there has to be cooperation. Prabhupada said, right? Of course, we quote again, Prabhupada said, Prabhupada said, Prabhupada said. Everybody loves that quote, right? Cooperation. But cooperation means that the leaders have to be also humble and qualified and surrendered. Not that I'm a leader and I'm arrogant and not surrendered and not qualified, and I say, you cooperate with me. There has to be qualification on both sides. But tendency of religions is to water things down, to dilute things, to pollute things, to pretty much start a whole nother movement within a movement, in which people lose, or people actually lose the opportunity to obtain the real goal of what the movement is supposed to be giving. In this case, it's love for Krishna, and by chanting the holy names and kirtan and japa and spreading the Hare Krishna movement. So the leaders of religion, they should be happy that the followers of a particular religion are not. In other words, they shouldn't try to dumb down the conscience of the followers, but they should be happy that the followers are independently thinking and using their talents in Krishna service. So that's what Srila Prabhupada wanted. He said he wanted the leaders to create a challenge for the followers, and which they could express their devotion towards Krishna, and also Prabhupada encouraged independent thinking, which means that things are open for discussion. It doesn't mean that I'm a leader and because I said so, you have to agree, but we're open for discussion. But both parties need to be following the principles of logic and reason, and also be willing to adjust according to logical conclusions based not just on logic and reason, of course, but based on scriptural references, based on what Prabhupada said, based on what previous acharyas said. There's a lot going on. So yeah, Srila Prabhupada wanted his devotees to be alive, independent thinkers, and he didn't want his followers to be just vegetables, you could say, frozen vegetables. Which, by the way, it's not good. These frozen vegetables. Frozen vegetables, Prabhupada said, is like emergency. not as a we buy them every week type of program. It's really bad. Frozen's just nasty. I mean, prana's completely gone from that. Long gone. And Krishna's supposed to get first class everything. So how is this frozen vegetables first class? Doesn't seem first class to me. Seems 10th class. So better to avoid that. And for we're talking about independent thinkers here, I'll give you a bunch of quotes where Prabhupada clearly says it. So yeah, we're not supposed to be vegetables. Even worse, we're not supposed to be frozen vegetables. I guess that's like the further stages of ignorance and tamas, right? One's a vegetable. Hey Prabhu, don't be like a carrot, get moving. Hey Prabhu, don't be like a potato, get moving. But then to be like a frozen potato or frozen carrot, that's like the later stages. I don't even know if they have frozen potatoes. They have frozen potatoes? No. Yeah, Prakash saying yes. Yeah, pre-cut, like French fries, right? You just take them out of the bag and put them in the oven or whatever, heat them up, put them in the microwave or something. So yeah, one is that leaders, but still we have to cooperate. Leaders, followers, we have to cooperate. So I'm independently minded, this and that. Okay, great. I'm using my creative abilities and Krishna, great. But still there has to be cooperation. That's the challenge. That's the difficulty sometimes. And aside from all that, balancing creativeness and Krishna service and independent thinking and Krishna service versus dealing with a institution. So that has to take place, but also has to take place is just keeping the purity alive in a real way, not in a niyamagraha way, which means, okay, well, one, I just completely neglect the principles. That's the purity is being lost because we're neglecting. Another way the purity is lost is that, oh, I'm following very carefully, but I'm doing it without, bhava, without the emotion, without the feeling. It's just like mechanically. So, like whatever it may be, chanting mechanically, or deity worship, or cooking mechanically, whatever it is, just mechanically, without the bhava, without being Krishna conscious. So that's how purity is lost also. And also purity is lost by philosophical misconceptions, deviations, again, creating movements within a movement. So we have to keep that as far as possible within our scope of influence, within our, scope of influence. We have to try to keep these things alive and well. That may be in the west coast of America. That may mean the Brahmacharya ashram in San Diego. That may mean many other places around the world. Depending on our scope of influence, we try to keep things alive in the right way. Because after all, Srila Prabhupada promises, and we also promise as followers of Prabhupada. What do we promise? We promise, one more thing about institution. Because sometimes they say, the necessary evil of organized religion. I think there's something where apparently the devil and God, it's a Christian thing, but the devil and God, they came together and how did it go? Does anyone remember that one? They say that, They say they're having a conversation and it was like, what was it? Anyways, we'll say that another time. But I do know one. I remembered recently. Borijan Prabhu, recently, he was speaking with one devotee. I was hearing them speak. I was there. It was in Govardhan, by Govardhan Hill. But this devotee was saying, why can't the Gaudiya Math and ISKCON, they join together? And it would be very good, unite all Vaishnavas. And of course, if somebody is broad-minded, it's not that Vaishnavas aren't united, Vaishnavas are united. Anyways, but he said, why don't we unite practically? We get together, we join forces, right? And then Bhakti Prabhu was saying, everything's just so different, the way they lead kirtan, the way we lead kirtan, there's some philosophical things, differences.
Don't they chant 64?
No, I don't think so. Maybe some, but the question is, don't they chant 64? But maybe some, but a lot don't. Maybe they even, yeah. But just like, anyways, there's so many differences. And a lot of the times, those differences, of course, religious people, like I was discussing with someone the other day, devotees will spend 45 minutes speaking about what's the best way to, I don't know, mop the deity floor or something. It's like, well, do we get on our knees and hands because that's more traditional and that's more thorough, or do we use a mop thing? But are we considered lazy? Is this Western? What did Prabhupada do? How did he teach it? And in some ways, okay, fine. But what I'm saying is, it's just like every little topic that there's a lot of discussion about in religious groups. I've seen it many times. Now, there's a lot of care about certain things. Now, what to speak of philosophical things, and a lot of these persons or at least some of the persons of the Gaudiya Math, it's a huge thing, these philosophical differences. And why is it a huge thing? Because they'll immediately, 5 minutes into the conversation of meeting you, they'll start talking to you about it. What about this? What about this? What about that? It says this in Jaiva Dharma, and on and on and on and on and on. Which is not exactly how Prabhupada's seeing things, so it's like, it could become, a bit of an ugly discussion in some cases, actually. I'm sure it has been. So there's so many things on a small scale and a large scale that are different. So Bhakti Prabhu was saying that I don't think it's going to work practically. And this devotee said, oh, I think I'm going to try for it. And then Bhakti Prabhu said, oh, so you want to save the world? And this devotee said, yes. So then Bhakti Prabhu's wife came, Jagatarini, and Bhakti Prabhu said, this is, so-and-so, and he wants to save the world. Anyways, so Bhakti Prabhu, then he went on to go to explain the necessity of the evil of religion, organized religion. And he said that he heard from, some class and, some Purana, that Brahma, at the beginning of creation, he was there and he didn't have a wife. So then he asked Krishna, he said, Krishna, can you please give me a wife? And then Krishna said, okay, here you go. So then 6 months passed, and then Brahma went to Krishna and said, Krishna, can you please take her back? And then Krishna took her back. So then 6 months passed, and then Brahma went to Krishna and said, Krishna, can you please give me her back? So anyways, Bhakti Prabhu said, this is, the idea is you can't live with him and you can't live without him, right? Also for women, like that, a lot of, women, for men, can't live with him, can't live without him, right? Women out there, can you agree? So they said this is just like organized religion. You can't live with him, you can't live without him. Means immediately when there's some organized religion, it creates difficulties. It creates problems. Or as Srila Prabhupada would say, or Srila Prabhupada said, spiritual movement in the material world, very difficult proposition. So it creates issues. So it's the business of the followers to keep the purity, to make sure that there's not movements created within a movement that in which case people will lose the essence, or they won't be able to achieve the goal. That's the duty of the followers of Srila Prabhupada. That's our duty. And it's very important and should be taken very seriously. It shouldn't be taken lightly. Oh, I'm just a follower, what can I do? Well, you could do a lot of good and you could do a lot of harm as a follower. And also, what to speak of a leader. So it's the 50th anniversary of Sri Sri Radha Giridhara this year, and there's many events being planned. And collectively and individually, we should have some type of goals. That what will we do for the deities? What will we do for the community? What will we do for Prabhupada? What will we do? And this requires that that we're alive. So, because after all, I mean, it's as Srila Prabhupada promised, and we're promising. Srila Prabhupada promised, you come to the Hare Krishna movement, you'll get ananda, right? You'll get bliss. We're also promising that. You come and you'll feel ananda, you'll feel happiness, you'll feel bliss. But many times people, they want the benefit of things without putting in the necessary endeavor, without putting in the necessary work. Like, okay, ananda without following principles, it's not going to be there. How are you supposed to get ananda without chanting Hare Krishna or following principles? It's not going to happen. Or as Prabhupada would say, or for example, it being mentioned here about milk, right? People want the milk, but they don't want to take care of the cows. Bad. This is very bad. Also, temples should be feeling very bad, actually. Actually, they should be feeling ashamed that we want the milk, the benefit of the milk, first and foremost to offer to Krishna, but also afterwards, we want the benefit of the milk, but what about taking care of the cows? A temple should feel bad. And there should be some practical plan that they have. Just like on the East Coast, Gita Nagari is, I don't know the ins and outs and details of what's going on there exactly, but they're taking care of many, many cows, and they are producing a lot of milk, and they're supplying it to a lot of temples. At least some temples are getting some milk. So every temple should have a plan to have a goshala, which is alive and well. And of course, this isn't supposed to be some type of, like a bashing, let's just make everybody feel bad type of thing. But we need to think about that. That's what Srila Prabhupada wanted. I mean, we have to think about it and plan for it and execute it somehow or other. But yeah, people want milk, but they don't want to take care of cows. Whereas Prabhupada would say about marriage, he said, nowadays people are thinking, what's the use of marriage? He said, and then Prabhupada had a saying, Prabhupada's saying is, which I'm not sure where he got it, maybe it's a Bengali saying, but the saying is, if milk is available in the supermarket, why keep a cow? So, if that's clear to everybody in terms of marriage. So again, yeah, we're claiming to be followers of Srila Prabhupada, but, or just like that, I'm a follower of Srila Prabhupada, right? Well, one is to claim, but we actually have to follow. And again, this isn't supposed to be like a, make everybody feel terrible. It's supposed to mean that, yeah, we just have to do it. Whereas Prabhupada would give the example quite a lot. He would say that what is that? What is it? Half-hand logic. What's something Naya? No. Nayaka, something. So half-hand logic. So a farmer was saying, oh, great, yeah, look at it. We're getting all these, nice eggs. Of course, we're not into that stuff. We're not into that stuff, but eggs. But this man was thinking, oh, very good, very good. And then he's thinking, oh, I have to feed the, chicken, right? Or hen. I have to feed, not chicken, hen. I have to feed a hen so much. And okay, I'm just going to, cut off the head, right? But what happens? No more eggs. So Prabhupada would use this. And half-hen logic means that just to accept those things which we like or that are easy or whatever, and then forget about everything else. So we accept things fully. Now, Srila Prabhupada mentions here also trees. When these prachetas, right? Prachetas, they came out of the water from performing austerity. Imagine performing austerity in the water, huh? They came out and the whole world was overgrown with trees and became angry. They burned these trees down. And Prabhupada's saying that when the government neglects agriculture, which is necessary for production of food, the land becomes covered with unnecessary trees. Of course, many trees are useful, fruits and flowers, but many other trees are unnecessary. It's interesting in Honolulu, when you go around, these trees, these plumeria, people think, oh yeah, plumeria, this is, high class, and, not everybody has one in their backyard, right? You have to, grow it and take care of it. These plumerias, you go to like a CVS parking lot, and plumerias are growing there. Number of them. And I was with Radesha, and we were driving around. Anyways, and he's a tree guy, so he knows all about tree, he cuts tree. That's what he does for a living. So Radheya, old Radheya, he was telling me, mango tree. And another mango tree. Another mango. He kept on, mango. And he kept on just pointing them all out. It was just growing everywhere. Plumeria, mango. So Prabhupada's saying, okay, useful fruits, flowers, right? Offer to Krishna and accept prasadam. So there's many other unnecessary trees. So he's saying, okay, you could cut them down for fuel, and then you could grow some vegetables and so on. Now Prabhupada, he was in Juhu and Mumbai, and it was a huge issue. One, it was to get the land. That was the first challenge. The second challenge was to get permission to build the Juhu temple. And the third challenge was to actually build the temple. So in India, they gave permission, but it was under conditions, right? That's the material world, right? There's always some type of conditions. Yes, we'll do it if. So there's some conditions. Now the conditions were that there were trees that were blocking there's going to be a driveway going in, exit, entrance, driveway, and still there today, Juhu. So the municipality, they were saying, what is it? Municipality, they were saying that you have to cut down these trees. So then when Prabhupada came back from a world tour, the devotees, they cut down some of the trees. And then Prabhupada asked about it. He said, why did you cut down those trees? And then the devotees said that they thought they had the perfect answer, was because we're building the temple. And the municipality said we should. And Prabhupada said no. He said, you should go to the municipality and you'd say, it is against our religion to cut down trees. So they did that. They went to the municipality and said, it's against our religion to cut down trees. And then, of course, they objected, the municipality. So then Prabhupada went on another world tour and he came back and he said, I was just in Iran and I saw that they have trees in the middle of the roads, so we should keep this tree. So then eventually the municipality, they agreed. And to that day, this tree is still standing there in Juhu property. And His Holiness Giraj Swami, he was saying how he was reflecting on Prabhupada's care and concern, and he even said love, for this tree. And he was thinking, you know, people, oh, just a tree or something, but Prabhupada was showing so much care for this tree. And he was saying, what to speak of his disciples and followers, so much care. And he was saying how by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, just as this tree is standing very strongly, he said, similarly, we could stand very strongly in Krishna consciousness by his mercy, no matter what's going on around us. So and then Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Kirshigo Rakshavani Jam Vaishyakarma Sabhavajam, that engagement for Vaishyas is to farm and protect cows, and the duty of the government, the Kshatriyas, is to protect humans. So everybody practically needs protection, and is the duty of specifically the Vaishyas to protect cows and animals. So people they seem to wonder, oh, how can we do this? Like there's a lot of doubting in the air. How can we do this? How can we do that? How can we? And it's not a great mentality to have, because with that type of mentality, yeah, how can you do it? You know, be a vegetable. But if somebody thinks positively, but not just thinks positively, but acts in such a way that desires and prays and acts in such a way that the mercy of Krishna is more willing, more available to them, then they could do so many things. But the problem is there's not a desire. And they're in this kind of vegetable state of thinking it can never happen. Yes, it won't happen if you think like that, or if we think like that. It won't happen. Just like this devotee in ISV, San Jose, his name's Sri Krishna Purushottam Prabhu. I mean, he's working very hard. I don't know what he does for work. He's doing something, but I know he's not just living up there for free in San Jose. You know, it's an expensive place. And he has a daughter, and he has a son, and he has a wife. And so I visit his house. He has a house too. He's not living on the streets. So he must be producing money somehow. But alongside with that, on the basis of his guru's encouragement and guidance, Bhakti, what's the Maharaj? He's into cow protection. Bhakti Bhakti Raghava Swami, under his encouragement, he started a whole Goshala. I visited there, a very beautiful place. And there's, many cows, and there's a little structure there where he has somebody helping him, and it's all going on. And he wasn't just thinking, oh, impossible, it's never going to happen, this is here up in San Jose, Sri Krishna Purushottama. And there's many devotees doing many things that are just like, or we have our Mahotsaha, right, in Atlanta, who all the book distributors in the world are talking about. And he's just desiring, okay, I'm going to distribute these books, and it's happening. And he said, by the mercy of a spiritual master. But you could say, oh, well, I'm desiring, and it's not happening. Well, okay, well, maybe that's not your service, Prabhu. Maybe you should do another service, which, you might be better at, or that might be your particular service. But the point is just to desire and to try for that which should be done. Okay, so does anybody have any question or comment? What about online? Where was Vijay Krishna before? Remember, he wasn't asking questions for I guess he was on the marathon, huh? Booked marathon. I was going to ask him.
Yes, I did a marathon.
Nice. How did your marathon?
But I have a question.
Okay.
Well, why do Vedic civilization categorize even not minerals, I think, but vegetables and animals as also citizens of the kingdom? Because nowadays what we see is that animals are being slaughtered by the second in order to, related to the meat industry, to feed human beings, so they couldn't care less about respecting and protecting the animals they slaughter in order to please the palate of the human being. So why give so much importance to not so developed as human beings? Because the consciousness of vegetables, as you know better than me, is not as developed as the consciousness of the human beings. The consciousness of the vegetables and of the animals is undeveloped, if I may say it. Why does Vedic civilization still categorize them as citizens of the kingdom?
All right, thank you. Yeah, in terms of vegetables being citizens, I don't remember. I mean, maybe there's some quotes out there on this, but I do remember Prabhupada saying a number of times about animals being citizens. Now you can say, well, why do they categorize them as citizens? Because their consciousness is undeveloped or less developed. True. They're true, their consciousness being less developed. But we could also say that about children. I mean, you say we consider them citizens, right? So just because somebody's consciousness is not, matured completely, doesn't mean that they can't be considered a citizen, and therefore they should be given protection. Like Prabhupada said, women, children, Brahmins, cows, elderly, they all need protection because they can be easily abused, actually. So similarly with animals, cows are there. They need protection because they could easily be abused, as we're seeing, and it's amazing how people just kind of turn their intelligence off in this regard. Like I was speaking with someone recently, and they said, "Yeah, I can't believe it. Yeah, it's cruel. You watch those videos and you see all those animals being said. It's very cruel, but you just can't think about it. That's our food. You got to kind of." It means you got to turn off your intelligence, right? So that's what Maya means, you just turn off the intelligence. So, yeah, we want to educate people in such a way that they understand these things. And yeah, like your question is, they are citizens, even though their conscience is not matured. So therefore, they need protection. So
Prabhu, if I may, in accordance with your answer, this idea related to our present days that undeveloped consciousness is meant to be exploited is the wrong idea.
yes.
So the fact that they have no better than undeveloped consciousness is something which could be there inspiring us to, like you said, protecting them and also helping them to develop.
Did you catch that?
Like children, you said.
Yes, like children.
Yes, children have undeveloped consciousness because they're children, but the duty of the parents is to help the children to develop their consciousness by teaching them how schooling and sending them to Gurukul, etc.
Yes, yes.
So it's not that just because the consciousness is undeveloped, oh, let's exploit them and send them to these slaughterhouses and eat them.
Yes.
Like they do with the animals.
I mean, you have to protect. You have to protect and you have to care for. Yeah, that's the point.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
I just want to say something in relation to austerity because, you're a little austere sometimes, but I heard recently, and I thought it was kind of amusing, but it's real quick. So there was one monk, an ashram, monastery, and the monks there, they would take vows of silence. So this monk took, and every 10 years they got to say 2 words to the master, right? So anyways, this monk took this vow of silence, and he said, now that I think about it, I think I know somebody who tells this. Anyways, I like it personally, but so he said, this monk, he got his 2 words after 10 years, and he said, food bad. So then 10 years go by, and then, he's a vow of silence, and then he says the next 2 words, he says, bed hard. Bed. And then the next 10 years go by, right? And then he goes to the master, and he says the next 2 words, and the two words are, I'm leaving. So then the master said to him, yes, no surprise you're leaving. He said, you've been complaining ever since you got here. Hare Krishna. All right. Grant Judge Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.